the hamsters have to wake up. There we
Yeah,
go.
it is being recorded now. And I just want to give some intro about myself first. Probably, this is me, Otis, the Lucy code developer. Uh, I'm just 8.5 years of experience in ColdFusion technology in Microsoft. So I'm a proud father of three childs. Yep, that's it. All about me. So this is my first meeting as a host, so little hesitate or had some nervous in my mind for now. So yep, that's it about me. So probably this I think Mark can take over from here.
Will do. Thank you so much for that intro. Let me go ahead and I'm going to stop sharing the current thing, and I'm going to bring up not documents. Hold on. I'm going to bring up my screen, which hopefully that should be perfect. All right. Hopefully everyone can see that. Hello and welcome to Adobe ColdFusion DDX for PDF. My name is Mark Takata. I'm the global Adobe ColdFusion technical evangelist, and I am super stoked to be here. This is my first time speaking at this particular ColdFusion user group. So thank you for bringing me on and welcoming me in. A little bit about myself. I'm a ColdFusion developer for over 26 years. I have actually learned 13 different languages, including things like C#, various ColdFusion frameworks, Python, R, which I don't like, and most recently, GraphQL is something that I've picked up as well. But today we are going to be talking about ColdFusion, which is my favorite language. And we're going to be talking about something that a lot of people don't know a lot about, actually. This is something that has been in ColdFusion for quite a long time. And but whenever I ask people if they use it or something along those lines, they say, what? What is DDX? Of course, unless you've taken the ColdFusion certification, in which case DDX definitely comes up in that. And you were probably just as confused then as you are now, but let's help you get over that. So what is DDX? DDX, actually, it's a type of XML. And for those familiar, XML is an extensible markup language. HTML is kind of based on it, was originally designed for libraries. And it is designed as essentially a declarative, descriptive language for dealing with PDFs. PDFs, of course, are portable document formats. ColdFusion is really good at creating those, but sometimes even if you have already created one, or maybe you have a bunch of PDFs that you need to do things to them, you weren't quite sure exactly how to do it. You could, of course, go into Acrobat and merge things and change things around manually. But if you want to do it programmatically, maybe you weren't sure how to do it, this is how. And by the way, DDX documents must be in the DDX namespace. You will see this a lot in all of my code demos. So how does it work? Like, what exactly is it and where does it come from? All those things. Well, let me back up a little bit and talk about where it comes from, because that will actually inform a lot of what you're going to see today, because you're going to see this code and go, what the swear words is going on? Why is it using all of these like really, really old ways of doing styles and things like that? So if you've ever heard of live cycle, I almost guarantee you haven't, but if you've ever heard of it, you'll know it was a product that Adobe, I think, purchased and then sold for a long time that did document workflows. It was very powerful. You could stick it up on a bunch of servers and run an entire like document processing workflow through it. It was fairly expensive, kind of complicated, and eventually it died. You cannot go and buy Lifecycle today. If you go to the website, it's kind of dead, right? Or can you? Actually, you can, and you probably have. If you have ColdFusion starting at like, I don't know, probably 11, probably older than that, the DDX lifecycle engine is partially included in there. And by the way, it's also included in AEM. So Adobe continues to make use of the lifecycle engine, and it uses it primarily to do the things that I'm going to be telling you about today. So dropping in about how it actually works. Sorry, it's descriptive, not declarative. I made a little boo-boo there. So it's descriptive. It describes the things that you want your documents to do, to look like. There's not really programmatic things like you're not going to put in loops, for example, inside of your actual DDX document. Now, we're going to cheat a little bit there in a second, and I'll show you what I mean by that. But normally what you would happen, what would work is you'd have a bunch of source documents, right? And those get translated into target documents. And normally, generally speaking, you'd have a DDX file on your server that you'd create in, name away, that's properly formatted and working. And then you use an external file, a ColdFusion file, to then execute against that DDX. That's the standard way that most people did it in large workflows in the past. Today, though, I'm going to show you how to do it inside of ColdFusion, kind of live and dynamic. And you'll see it's actually kind of a neat thing to be able to do, and it solves a couple of problems that you have. And one of those is validating DDX. So if you've ever worked with XML, trying to make valid XML is like pulling teeth and drinking pain at the same time. Sometimes things will just not validate, and you'll be like, why is this not working? And DDX is no different. It's still just XML, and sometimes really stupid things break it. So what I'm going to be doing actually is I'm going to be creating a DDX file in memory and tricking ColdFusion into using that, because if I do that, I know 100% that I'm going to be generating a valid DDX file. So what does a valid DDX file look like? Well, it starts off with a document structure shown there. Basically, the XML version and the namespace, as I mentioned earlier. Now, once you have it declared, and I'll show you, you'll actually see what the files look like in a second once I start doing some of my code demos. But once you actually have it running, how do you know that it's valid, right? Well, ColdFusion has a very, very cleverly named member function called isDDX. Is this a DDX? Yes or no? And it returns a binary, 0 or 1, yes or no. And then when you actually perform an action across DDX, and you do that by using the process DDX action of the CFPDF tag, what ends up happening is it processes it, it does all the things it needs to do, lifts things, clanks hammers on things, and then it returns back a success or failure or an error. Now, the code I'm going to be showing you, it's all protected in try catches. We're going to be catching anything that would potentially go wrong, so it wouldn't actually return an error per se. But also, the return is a little bit odd, and we'll talk about that a little bit too once we get in there. So what are we going to do today? Like, what can it do? What are some of the things that DDX is capable of doing? Well, these are all things that I know I've done a ton, and in the past, I've used DDX obviously to do some of them, but some of them I've had to do manually in other ways, and it's a pain in the butt. But things like merging 2 or more PDF documents. This is something that can be done. So a use case here that could potentially also work with a second point, adding like a table of contents and even headers and footers. You could have a bunch of people who are authors who all author various PDFs, and they could upload them to a folder, right? And then you could actually, theoretically, look into that folder, grab the names, count the number of them, loop through them to create the DDX dynamically. Aha, here's the dynamic part where it's actually in CF. And then run your DDX against them, merge them, put a table of contents in all of them, and blah, 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 blah. All right, but I'm getting ahead of myself because that's like maybe the next talk. So we're going to be doing all of these things in pieces to start off, just so I don't lose anyone. But just know you can combine these and do a lot of fun programmatic stuff with it as well. So there's a lot of power here. So I've talked about a table of contents. By the way, table of contents, very important. I'm going to say this like a bunch of times because it screwed me up when I was doing it. Table of contents must have bookmarks in the originating PDF. Full stop, drop mic. If you don't have those, it won't error, Won't do anything. It'll merge the files. It'll do whatever else you're doing to them, but there won't be a table of contents, and you'll be like, why didn't that work? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So, and it's a little bit out of the scope about how you create bookmarks, but needless to say, I mean, you can create them in Word. I think you can create them programmatically. There's a bunch of different ways to create bookmarks, but they must be there, or the table of contents directive, that imperative, does nothing. The goggles do nothing. Formatting headers and footers. This is another really big thing. A lot of people want their PDF documents to all look the same, right? And have page numbers. So how do you normally number your pages? Well, I don't know. I mean, you might do them manually. That would suck. But using DDX, you can actually dynamically put page numbers in. You can add styles, which is kind of cool, but also done weirdly. So we'll get to that in a second. And then you can actually do some grouping of documents, and that's really programmatically grouping them internally for ColdFusion to see them as like one group, to put like a style profile against it. Sorry, I went Beastie Boys there a little bit. Style profile. Setting initial views of a PDF. This one's fun. So this one I kind of struggled to figure out an actual use case for it. And the best one that I came up with was, if you're part of a company like, hey, Adobe, and there's 325 different products, and you're not the most important one, and maybe Adobe puts out a brochure with all of their products, and you're going off to a conference, you might want to alter that PDF so that when someone opens it, you give them a thumb drive with this giant document with 500 pages. You could say it opens at the ColdFusion page, right? You can actually add that into an existing PDF. And the other people get mad at you, but whatever, like, you want your thing to be front and center. So that's the only thing I could think of on that. You can also have it just make sure, like, to skip, like, if you have a table of contents page or pages, multiple pages, if you just want it to, like, bam, open up on your first page of data, you can do that. So that's another one. And then the one that's used a lot, like a lot, is watermarking and adding backgrounds, which are two different things and done differently. And we'll talk about that and take a look. All right. So that's a lot of me blabbing. Code demos. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. Apologies for how small this is. I don't know if I can't really make this bigger. So what I wanted you to see here, and by the way, I think you can actually blow up this page as big as you want in your browser. I think there's like a little, like plus in the upper right or something like that, so it can maybe make it better. It's not that important to see what's here. What is important to note is that there's only a few PDFs here. And so what I'm trying to show is, like, I haven't created these yet. So, I'm doing this live, which you never do, right? Like, never do live demos with code, live demos with kids, or live demos with pets, because they'll poop the rug on camera for you. But I'm brave and I'm going to do it. So let's fire this up. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to look at merging. So, okay, hold on. This one I can make bigger. Can everybody read that? Is that big enough? Hopefully that's big enough. By the way, I'm doing this inside of the Adobe ColdFusion VS Code extension, which is awesome and free, and download it and use it, please, and give us feedback. All right, so what are we looking at here? This upper part up here, this CF save content, this is my, like, cheat. I'm kind of cheating here. This would normally, this file right here would normally be in a DDX file. And it would be, named something.ddx, and I would load that in and do whatever I was going to do with it. And of course, I don't want to do that because A, I'd have a bunch of DDX files, and B, potentially I could screw something up and it wouldn't work. But also, here's the cool thing. You'll notice that what I'm doing here is I am creating a PDF group. Well, first of all, I'm creating a PDF object, right? I'm naming the result. The result will be result file. And inside of that, I'm setting a group, and I'm putting in 2 source documents. Now, you remember earlier I said you could potentially dynamically go and look up, document directory list, right? And get all the names and figure out how many are there and loop through the array. Well, that's what you could do right here, because this is a .cfm file. Aha, right? So theoretically, you could go through here and name these doc1, doc2, x plus 1, you could go all the way down the length of the list that returns and have that many in the group. Then we get to the actual ColdFusion. By the way, something to note, and this is still the case, I was trying to get this actually in because I did this talk earlier this summer. This is the only DDX example code in CF script that I'm aware of existing on the internet right now. So this is kind of useful. It's in my Git repo, and you'll be able to see that later and take a look at that. So that's pretty important. That's something that that is neat. So if you're a CF script user, not a tag user, you would have had to figure all this out yourself. But hey, saved you the trouble. So let's figure out what we want to do here. So we start out by setting a variable, valid DDX, equal to the return of is my DDX, which is the saved content, this file. Is that a valid DDX? Well, it sure had better be, because I made it to be valid, right? Now, you could theoretically have set that to is DDX and then the name of the DDX file, and you'd get the same kind of thing. So that's kind of where I'm going with that. And then in here, I actually say, and this is not a, it's obviously not a true, this isn't a try catch. If it is valid, yay, then I'm going to go ahead and do all of this stuff in here. If not, I'm going to write down no DDX is not okay. I'm going to have an error message or whatever. So what am I doing up here? What CFPDF does when dealing with DDXs is it takes structs as input. And there's 2 structs. There's an input struct and an output struct. And what I'm doing here, you noticed earlier I created 2 documents, right? And I just named them doc1, doc2. Like that's not a name of that's not an actual name of anything, right? Well, what I'm doing is I'm creating this member of the struct, and I'm putting in the value of the actual document name that I'm going to be putting in. So remember earlier I said what you could do is loop through the directory structure and get all those, how many are there, put in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the docs. So you would do the same thing here, and you would match, doc1 to input 1, doc2 to input 2, doc3, doc4. Yeah, if you wanted to do that dynamically, which you probably would want to if you had people uploading, n number of files to be merged together, you wouldn't want to have to hard code that stuff. So this is a case where you could use ColdFusion to loop through and figure out what all the things are. So there must be a match for each of these in this input struct. If there isn't, things go boom, and it blows up horribly, which we don't want. Now, also, there's an output struct. And not surprisingly at all, the output struct has a member, and that member is the same name as the result. Aha. And it's going to have a name, and the name is going to be merge.pdf, and it can be anything you want it to be. Then you're going to run CFPDF. The action will be process DDX, as I mentioned earlier. Then I'm gonna actually name the file that I'm gonna use, right? That's the DDX file that I'm loading. That's not a file. It's CF content. It's in memory, but you know what I'm saying. And then the input files are the input struct. The output files are the output struct. And then there's a name, DDX var. Now that is going to return whether CFPDF properly did its thing or blew horribly up. So let's see that run. Boop. All right, so I'm going to load up merge. There you go. All right, what happened? So you'll see result file was successful. Oh, really? And it was. Right here, there is now, which wasn't here before, a merge.pdf that merged input 1, which this is document 1, and input 2, this is document 2. Okay. Cool, maybe? I don't know. I thought this was pretty cool. Kind of useful. But as I said, this is a very simple demo of a really incredibly powerful tool that you could use, again, to merge anything and put it in the right order and do all of that type of thing. All right. So that's the first one. Then let's go to table of contents. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, the files that you're going to be putting in must have bookmarks in them. Okay? If they don't, it's not going to work. What I have here is let's go back up and let's look at the DDX. Now there's a little bit different here. There's a little bit of a difference here between what we had before. I actually don't have a group here because I don't need it. I just have the PDF tag. And now I have a tag called table of contents. And this is where things get weird, right? Like, what the heck is a table of contents tag? What does that actually do? Well, not surprisingly, it puts in a table of contents if, and only if, there's bookmarks to fill that content. If there aren't any, it just doesn't do a darn thing. Now, hopefully, you would have thought, oh, well, it'll just put, maybe the bookmark title and nothing underneath it. Nope. It just dies. So, okay, what's in the table of contents? Well, there's a max bookmark level. What is that? Well, you can actually take bookmarks and nest them. Okay, so you can have a chapter, you can have a subchapter, you could have, whatever, ad infinitum, like infinitum, whatever the word is. You could have it go on forever. And if you only wanted the TOC to put a certain level, you could theoretically say, well, I just want one level deep reading of bookmarks to put into the TOC. Forget that. I just wanted to go as many as there are, just put it in the TOC. I don't care, just do it. Okay, so I just say infinite, which again, like, have you ever used infinite as an actual value in anything? I don't think so. This is the first time I did it. But here we are. I mean, except an infinite loop, which, I've never done because I'm a good programmer, right? Then there's a title. And the title can be there or it can not be there, potentially. But that's not actually what that does. And I'll show you that later. That's actually naming the object anyway. So it's sort of weird. And then there's an include in TOC, include in table of contents. What does that mean? Well, you can include the table of contents page in the actual table of contents. So you could have it listed as one of the things. Some people want to do that. Some people don't. Whatever. I'm not here to judge. I'm not going to have it in mind. Okay. Then from here on in, this is exactly the same thing that we did before. And this is going to get a little boring, but I'm going to keep driving it in there. It's pretty much the same thing throughout with very small changes based on the thing that you're doing. So again, I have two source documents. I have doc1 and doc2. That's not changing. And then I do the, is the DDX valid? It better be. If it is, then go ahead and put stuff in. Now, you'll notice one thing that changes here. I have a couple of different files. Why are they different? Well, because these have bookmarks in them. The previous ones didn't. And I'm also changing the name of the PDF that's going to come out so that I can show you that it appears. You run the action, nothing else changes. You go all the way down. I'm going to go ahead and open this up and run it. The result was successful. Okay. And here it is, toc.pdf, which was not here before. I'm going to open that up. And there you go. We've got chapter 1 and chapter 2. I'm going to go ahead and click that. And here we are. Jumps you down to chapter 2. And it tells you this is chapter 2. I wonder if this is chapter 2. So anyway, there you go. And you'll notice this is the very first page. It's not in the TOC because I said I didn't want it in there, right? Now, just for chuckles, I'll go ahead and delete that. And I am going to say true for include in TOC. So you know this isn't like pre-recorded or something. Go ahead and refresh. Still successful. Yay. Open this back up. Hey, the talk is back. Double click it, and there it is. Content of tables. Now, you'll see that's the bookmark title. It's not really a title. It's the name of the object, okay? There can be a title in your TOC, which is, I'm going to show you that in a second, and that can be a different thing than the name. So bookmark title, kind of a misnomer. Thank you very much, Lifecycle. Nobody's updating it anymore, so we're totally screwed. You just have to know that that's the thing that it is. Okay, awesome. Super fun. Let's keep going because I'm about halfway down through my time. Header and footer. Let's take a look at the header and footer. All right. So starting off again, kind of the same thing. We've got this. I'm back to using a group. Cool. And now we've got some crazy tags. Like, what in the world are these tags? Header? Right? Styled text? What the heck is all this? Well, this is all of the stuff that Lifecycle thought was a good idea to describe descriptively what is going to go in to the PDF at the end of the day. When you read through it, it actually does make sense. So we're creating a header. This section here will be right aligned. It's going to be styled text. And I'm just saying right justified header text because I love to do that so that you can see exactly what the thing is that I'm moving over. Now you've got something over here that's left justified header text, and that's what I'm calling it. And there's a footer as well. What is it? It's a footer. And I'm centering that. Remember the good old center tag? Woo! HTML 3.0, baby. So there it is. And it's styled text. There's a paragraph in there. Whoa, wait a minute. What is this? What is that? So this is the closest that DDX gets to being programmatic. This is a placeholder that will get looped through, which shows the current page number and what the total number of pages is, which is the last page number. I mean, duh, right? All right. So run through it. Everything here is actually the same as it was in the very first one. I'm using input 1. I'm using input 2. It's going to say document 1 and document 2 when it gets merged in there. However, the output file is going to be header footer.pdf. Boom. So let's hit that. We were successful. Yay. And here it is. Header footer.pdf now exists. This wasn't here earlier. You can rewind this tape later. I'm sure it's not a tape, but all right. And here we are. We have now got a PDF, and it has left justified text, right justified header text. And there's the footer, page 1 of 2. Down, the header repeats again, document 2. And guess what this is going to say? Everybody wins a prize, page 2 of 2. So there you go. Okay. Kind of neat, right? And you can see, like, just doing this like one at a time. Okay, it's not that big a deal, but powerful stuff if you want to combine it all together. All right. Next up, we're going to style the footer using what's called a style profile. And I'm not going to wrap. I swear. I'm just not going to do it. I think I did it into the box, and I got a warning for wrapping. Style profile footer. Here we go. Okay, so what does this look like? We are back again doing PDF group, but you'll notice there's something different. There's a footer tag in the PDF group with something that's called style reference, footer style. So remember before we had a whole footer tag, and we did all that stuff, and we had that outside of the PDF group. Well, we still have that here. But now what we've done, let me style this, let me format this properly. We've got a style profile named footer style, which is up here in the style reference. And here is where we put the actual footer information. So we've got the footer, it's going to be left aligned, style text. And what I'm doing is I'm giving it a font size of 9 point. And that's going to say CFML reference. And it's going to be italicized. And then on the right side of the footer, I'm going to have the page whatever of whatever on the right. So name of the file, page stuff. Very common layout, as you might know. Down here, everything is the same again, except of course I'm naming this style profile footer.pdf because, hey, I'm not that creative. And boom, result file is successful. And now there's a style profile footer.pdf. I'm going to open that up. Document 1, since we used those two inputs. And here you go. On the left-hand side, CFML reference. On the right-hand side, page 1 of 2. So that is how you do a footer style using a style profile. I'm going to do one more style profile. Oh my gosh, what did I do? Sorry, my bad. Boop and boop. I'm going to do a style profile to the table of contents. All right, so let's take a look at this. Now, this one, whoa, there's all kinds of things going on. But again, it's very similar and should be easy to figure out if you are reading through it. We've got the PDF. We're naming the result. And now we have a table of contents. Again, the bookmark level is infinite. The bookmark title is content of tables. Why not? And we are not including it in the TOC. And then we've got a header style reference of talk header style. Then we've got our doc 1 and doc 2. Now remember, this is a table of contents, so we need to put in the stuff that's got the bookmarks. I know I'm harping on it. I bashed my head against my keyboard for at least a solid 10 minutes trying to figure out why stuff wasn't working. So then we come down here. Here's our TOC. And we are going to center the TOC header, basically the title of it, and say table of contents. The color is going to be red. And again, look at this. This is like HTML 3.0 color. We're not using styles. Why? Because they don't work inside of Lifecycle. So that's a problem. I'm setting the font weight to be bold and the font to be Arial. Then you come down here, everything is the same as the earlier TOC, except I'm putting it out to style profile -TOC. Let's run that. Successful, thank goodness. And now there's a style profile -TOC PDF. Let's open her up. And there you go. So now we have a table of contents with a little title at the top. And then the two links to go into that. Now, remember earlier I said, oh, well, like if you that's not really the title, right? And I can show you that real easily by just saying this true and going like this. Kablowy. Booyah. Open this up, and now we've got content of tables, which was the title, really the name of the object, and we still have this header information up top, which is a different words, which is what I'm trying to show, that you can actually name the two things separately or do separate things to them if you want. Okay. Awesome. We are flying through this stuff. Setting initial views. So this is fun. So I am going to, I didn't mean to do that, but I will get to that in a second. Okay, so here is the code for setting initial view, and it is very, very easy. Again, we've got the PDF group, and you'll see there's a setting in here in the actual result. So it's not in the group, it's in the result. It's in the PDF object itself. And I'm naming it first view, and then I'm actually setting a profile, an initial view profile. And I'm going to tell it which page to open to. Okay. Now, as we were talking about earlier, let's say you wanted to dynamically generate a PDF with 100 pages and allow the person to generate a PDF that opened on any one of those pages. How might you do it? Very easily. All you would have to do is have a page before this that allowed them to choose from 1 to 100 and pass that to this page programmatically and replace this 2 with the number that you want to be the initial page view. Poof. Now you've got something that will open up to whatever page you want it to, as long as that page exists. Now, I'm not sure exactly what happens if you try to open to a page that doesn't exist. I assume it defrosts your fridge or shaves your cat. I don't know. Not good things, but make sure it's within bounds. I assume it just has either an index out of bounds error or a knowing life cycle. It doesn't do anything at all. The rest of this, very simple, very basic, exactly what you'd be expecting. We've got the 2 input files, except this time we are naming it initialview.pdf. And I already did it. I already hit it. So it is going to be here. Now, when I open this, what's going to happen? Well, it's going to open to page 2. And there it is. So the initial view was set to page 2, and it automatically opened that way to page 2. Awesome. All right, we are flying. Let's talk about setting watermarks. Okay, so this is very, very important. So the difference between a watermark and a background, in case anybody was wondering, is a watermark is the very top layer and should have some form of transparency. Otherwise, you're blocking everything else underneath it. You won't be able to read it. Okay, so let's take a look at how you do that. Okay, we create the PDF, and now we've got a tag here called watermark, and you can do a lot to it. In this case, I'm rotating it by 30 degrees. That's what that 30 means. And I'm setting the opacity at 65%. Of course, that can be anything from 0, in which case I don't know why you have one, but go for it, or 100, in which case you can't read anything underneath it. So don't do that, I would think. And then you can put pretty much anything you want in here. You could, I believe you could put an image, even a partially transparent image. Of course, that would screw with the opacity. But what I did is something even easier. Is I just put some text. So I put in, and I did this in the summer. So for those of you who made it out to CF Summit 2022, I hope I got to meet you. If you didn't, sorry, but we will be back next year. So start getting ready for CF Summit 2023. And I wrote, make sure you come to CF Summit 2022. I set the font size to 50 point. I set the colors to be 2 different things. So you can see, you can actually change colors around. You could change the font type. You've got Arial in here. And then the rest of this is going to be the same. We've got a PDF group with the 2 docs. I've got input 1 and input 2, and I'm going to name it watermark.pdf. I hope I'm not putting everyone to sleep, because I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over again, but that's okay. Setting watermark. I'm going to turn that on. Result file was successful. And now I've got watermark.pdf. When I open this, there you go. And unfortunately, I don't have enough text to show you that this is partially transparent, but it should be fairly obvious. This red should be much redder. It's kind of like a dark pink because it's at 65% opacity. And just to prove that it is some kind of opacity, I'm going to set this to something. Oh my goodness. Something light. I'm going to set it to 25%. Regenerate it. And look at how light that is. So you can see it's got opacity. So what can you use this for? You can use this for like internal documents that need to say internal use only, do not share across them, or something scary like that. Or draft, right? That's another thing that a lot of people do. You know, this is only a draft, not for release or something like that, right? You could automatically set that to be set on anything that comes out of a particular thing. So let's say you've got people putting in draft documents, and those are going to be released to some reviewers, and you don't trust them, and you certainly don't trust the writers to put in some kind of watermark. Of course you don't. These guys have no idea how to do that in Word. They can barely make a paragraph. So you can do it automatically for them using DDX. Awesome. All right. We are coming to the end here, folks. So the final one, setting the background. And I'm also going to be giving you another quasi-programmatic thing that you can do in DDX. So here we are. Let's start at the top. Again, PDF, result file, but now we've got a background tag. And now there's something in here which you're like, what is that? So alternation can be set to have different backgrounds in different places. So in this case, I'm saying every page that's even will have at the top, because I'm setting the vertical anchor to the top, it will say draft, and just because why not, even. And now I've got another background, and I'm putting that on the odd pages at the top, and it's red, and it's going to say beta 1. And just because why not, I'm going to have it say odd. Now, something to notice here. I'm sure all of you are thinking, wait, but you're setting the even pages first, and 1 is odd. That's okay. It knows what it's doing. So what's going to happen, drum roll, is when I come in here and I go to background, which was the name of the file, and open this, it is going to do beta 1 odd first, because page 1 is, spoiler alert, an odd number. And on the even number, we've got draft even. Awesome. All right. So that is it for my talk. Anybody have any questions? Please go ahead and put them in the chat. I don't think we have a Q&A panel right now. But as you're doing that, here is all the contact information for this talk. I actually have it up on GitHub at Into the Box 2022 at my Mark R. Takata GitHub. Should be open, and if you want to make a pull request against it, go ahead. All good. Download it, branch it, fork it, whatever you want to do. My LinkedIn is linkedin.com, Mark Takata. Please add me. I'd love to connect with ColdFusion developers all over the world. On CFML Slack, where I am basically like, it's kind of even between that and LinkedIn as to how active I am. I'm on the CFML Slack all the time, trying to help out, mostly in the Adobe channel, also in CFML General and CFML Beginner. And I sort of lurk in the docs and the Lucy stuff. My dot card, which has my email and all sorts of other stuff, is there. And I do actually offer office hours. I have a 15-minute slot open, I think, every Monday. If you're interested, you can sign up and we can chat about, ColdFusion things for 15 minutes, or I don't know, motorcycles. I love Royal Enfield. We can talk about Royal Enfield motorcycles for 15 minutes. And I'll call it work. Awesome. And of course, my email is takata@adobe.com. My door is always open. Okay, so we've got some questions. Pawan says, how can we add barcodes with custom fonts? Does it support that? Okay. No, it doesn't. So this is a totally different thing than DDX. DDX does not generate images, barcodes, those fun little square things, which are a type of barcode, the whatever those things are called. It does not generate that stuff. However, if that is a use case that you have and are interested in seeing that come in, it's something we are working on incorporating into ColdFusion, not in the next release, but in another release past that into CF Image. If you're familiar with CF Image, that does have some capabilities similar to that, not barcodes yet, but that is something that we're looking at adding. So please do feel free to email me with that with that request and that user story, and I can make sure to get in front of the PM and get that in there, because it's something that I've wanted for a long time, and a lot of other platforms actually do that also. In terms of custom fonts, so actually putting custom fonts into your PDF, you would not use DDX for this. This is not, you're not generating the original PDFs, if that makes sense, right? You are taking existing PDFs that were generated in some other way, for example, like HTML to PDF or CF document, or who knows, Word, whatever. And you are manipulating them and changing them and merging them and doing some things to them. The TOC does get created, but that's kind of a little bit different than that. But hopefully. Let's see. Saravan says, in style profile footer, you did a code like footer CFML, but in PDF footer text is not shown in italic. Should have been. Hold on. Did I mess up? Let me take a look at that. Okay, so this was in, style profile. Hold on, let me share my screen again. Okay. Style profile footer. Oh, yes. Okay, so font size 9. This should have been italicized. Yes, and was it not? Okay, let me go look. Style profile footer. You're right. That's interesting. It is not italicized. So I may be using the wrong code there. You have a good eye on that. Potentially it's something silly like font italic equals true. In fact, I can test that right now. Does anybody remember? Is that it? What was the old name? Oh wait, I'm doing it in the, no wait, is that right? Hold on, I'm doing it in the wrong place. Let's try that and go to style profile footer. Oh, that broke. And that's what happens when your DDX is not right. Okay, so yeah, I mean the things the things that it supports, as I said before, are the things that LiveCycle supports, and LiveCycle's super old. I mean, it's like 90s, maybe older than that, because actually Adobe bought it. They bought the company that LiveCycle, I think it might have just been called LiveCycle. And in fact, I met someone who worked at LiveCycle and they were acquired the other day, and he's been at Adobe for 24 years. So It is kind of old. So yes, and documentation apparently exists somewhere. I haven't been able to find it. So you do have to get a little bit tricksy with that. There are definitely limitations to this, though, no doubt. I am not sure exactly how we could potentially fix this because, as I said, Lifecycle is kind of dead. It's written in, oh my God, I don't even know. It's like written in Delphi or something like that. And I sure as heck do not know Delphi, and I actually don't know anyone who knows Delphi. But so yes, unfortunately, there are some limitations to what you can do with the styles. But I will try and figure out what the. In fact, I could probably, let's see, HTML3 italics. Gosh, it's so old they just don't even have they don't even have it. Well, I wonder if M would work. Let's try that. And does anybody, by the way, have any other questions while I'm trying to figure out what in the world is going on here with this? Oopsie daisy. Oop. All right, let's load this back up. What do you mean DDX is not okay? Hey, what's going on now? Oh, it doesn't support M? Are you kidding me? How about font style is equal to italic? All right, what does that do? Oh, the DDX specified is not valid. Oh. Remember what I said about doing live coding and demos? And everything blows up. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and punt on this one. But I think the answer to your question is, yeah, there's definitely limitations to what works and what does not. All right, let's go. Okay, anyway, right. Are we able to use the TTF file for the custom fonts? Yeah, I don't think you can import custom fonts into Lifecycle. I literally don't know enough about that. Again, I mean, if you were able to do that, you would have to probably use it in both. Like you'd have to import the file into the server. So one of the things that this does is kind of old school. Like if you remember, the old school way of doing PDFs is that it would have to be installed on the server. Like I think in CF there was like a listing of the fonts that are like installed, right? And you've got, I don't know, like the base fonts. I think like X Windows fonts were available, things like that. If you were running on like Linux and stuff like that. Anyway, so it would have to be in there. I think that's where that's like the list of fonts that's available is the list of fonts that's on the server. So if you don't have control over the server, kind of not going to be able to do that, unfortunately. Sorry about that. Right. Any other questions? Maybe one that I can answer in the positive. I'm going to get so many no's. I don't want to hear from this guy again. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And his DDX crashed. Awesome. Thanks, John. I appreciate you, buddy. Got to get out to Waikiki sometime and go surfing. Well, you can surf. I'll sit on the beach and drink a fruit juice.
And guys, we have a poll to be filled up. So this is again the basic questions. Please do that before you left.
Awesome. Oh, we ended up with 33 people. Very cool. Yeah, we had a good group. Oh, by the way, just to get it out there, you may have seen this already if you follow me on Slack or on LinkedIn. But if you don't, do, first of all, hop on there and follow me. And we are going to be opening up The alpha for testing, for public testing, in fact, the signups are open now, and you can get the link for that from from my LinkedIn page, from uh, Charlie Earhart, and also from CFML Slack in the Adobe channel. It's the pinned Slack at the very, very top. So we have a 200-person limit right now. So if you're interested and you want to test, we want to have you there. We're looking for folks. There's a download link in the pre-release. Yes, correct. If you go to the, there shouldn't be a download link yet. Wait, is there literally an alpha download? Okay. Oh God, John, you scared the Jesus out of me. There shouldn't be a link yet. No, there's a link to get there. Yeah, if you go to the pre-release site, you can actually get invited, and it's going to be great. We've got a ton of new features, and we really need people to help out and test it, especially if you use Google Cloud. Google Cloud is something new that's coming out in Fortuna, and full disclosure, I have not done a darn thing with Google Cloud. So if you are familiar with it, we would love to have you in there and testing it, because it's brand new. All the code is new, and there's probably all sorts of things going wrong with it. So we definitely need your help. Keep in mind, it is an alpha, so things will break. Please don't run any production sites off of it. We've got GraphQL being added. We've got a new PDF engine being added to it. All sorts of stuff is being added to it. So definitely check those places out. Follow me on LinkedIn. Hop on Slack. It's a great place to learn and interact with thousands of your fellow CFML developers. And I'm there too. And John. We're all there. Awesome. Right. Well, it is looking like we don't have any other questions, maybe. So I want to thank everyone for coming. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me here at this ColdFusion user group, and I will be happy to return as many times as you would like me to. It's been fun and a real good time, and I am going to head to bed because it is pretty late here on the west coast of the United States where I live.
Yep, that's really a good thing to have you at this particular meeting or tech talk, Mark. Probably we'll be hoping to have you in the another session very soon. So, yep, that's it.
Fantastic. Let me know. Awesome. All right, everyone. I'm gonna sign off and grab some Z's. All right, all of you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will be back soon, I'm sure. Thanks.
Yep. Thanks everyone for joining this particular tech talk, and please support the community.